She was about to give birth, then her ex-husband doctor did the unthinkable at midnight. The clock struck 12 as the hospital's fluorescent lights flickered ominously, casting long shadows through the empty corridors. A palpable tension hung in the air. Emily lay on the delivery table, her breaths quickening. Panic surged through her chest like a tidal wave. She was mere minutes away from bringing a new life into the world. Yet her heart raced for another reason. Her ex-husband, the very man she thought she'd left behind, was leading her medical team. Dr. Adam Carter had been her rock once, but now, in the cold steel room, he felt more like a ghost from the past. The whispers echoed around her, hospital staff exchanging glances filled with concern. Was it really a wise choice to allow him back into her life? The part of her that loved him struggled against the reality that pushed against her from all sides: betrayal, regret. Just then, a loud crash echoed down the hall, sending chills skittering down her spine. Had someone fallen? Could the night's horror be just getting started? She turned to Adam, his brows knitted in concentration, but his eyes held a flicker of something dark, something she couldn't quite place. The soft beeping of monitors punctuated the silence, forming a chilling heartbeat to the chaos. The sterile smell of antiseptic mixed with the warmth of impending birth created a surreal backdrop. Emily's heart thundered in sync with the monitors, both electrifying and terrifying, as if sensing the turmoil ahead. A nurse rushed past, her white uniform a blur, and for a moment, all of Emily's fear blended into a single thought: what was going on in that darkened hallway? It was like the world around her was holding its breath, just waiting for the moment the other shoe would drop. Was it just her imagination, or was that tension weaving through the air making it hard to breathe? She gripped the edges of the table, her palms damp with sweat and anticipation. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Suddenly, a voice boomed from the hallway: we need to get him out of here. Panic etched on the faces of the medical team as hands moved with urgency. Did they mean her ex-husband? The flickering lights grew dimmer, shadows creeping closer as another crash sounded. This was far more than a simple birth. Was this an omen for Emily's future? Breaths quickening, the reality hit hard again. She was trapped in a desperate fight to keep not only her baby safe but herself, too. As another scream ripped through the silence, Emily's mind raced. This night was spiraling into chaos. What terrible secret had Adam brought to the surface? With every heartbeat, it felt like the world she once knew was unraveling, leaving nothing but questions in its wake. What happened here tonight would change everything. The lights flickered once more, plunging the room into unsettling darkness before returning with an even harsher buzz. Emily felt her heart pounding against her ribs, a wild and desperate drum. "What's happening out there?" she gasped, her voice barely above a whisper as she looked at Adam, searching for reassurance that he didn't meet her gaze. Instead, he focused on the monitors, his fingers dancing over the controls with precision. Sweat beaded on his brow as he glanced at the door. "Stay calm, Emily," he said, but the tremor in his voice betrayed the urgency of the moment. A second crash echoed, louder this time, and someone shouted from the corridor. "You can't take her." The voice was frantic, sent chills racing down Emily's spine. She strained to hear more, an instinctual sense of danger gnawing at her. Is it someone from my past?" She trembled, drawing closer to the edge of panic. Memories flooded her mind, the dark times, the betrayals, the shattering pain of their divorce. Adam wheeled around, finally locking eyes with her. "It's not safe, Emily," he said, urgency breaking through the calm exterior he tried to maintain. It felt as if his eyes were pleading for her to understand the gravity of the situation. But what was happening beyond that door? The beeping machines became a chaotic symphony of alarms as the tension thickened. A sense of dread crawled up her spine. "I can't just lay here," she exclaimed, trying to fight against the dread consuming her. She needed answers. She needed to know her child would be safe amidst this madness. "Emily, listen." Adam's voice sliced through the chaos, desperate and commanding. "You need to trust me. I'm here for you. But we have to keep everyone under control." As if summoned by his words, the door swung open, and a tall figure stumbled in. Emily's blood ran cold. It was Michael, her brother. He looked disheveled and breathless. "Emily!" he shouted, panic dominating his expression. "I couldn't get to you in time. They won't let me near you." "Who won't?" Her voice trembled as anxiety erupted in her chest. The room felt smaller, the air thinner. "The staff, Adam, something's wrong. I overheard them plotting. They're planning to take you away." "What?" The word struck Emily like a lightning bolt. "Why?" Before Michael could respond, the lights flickered again, the emergency lights dimming dangerously. A low rumble echoed in the distance, and a wave of panic washed through her. This was more than just a chaotic night for childbirth. Adam looked strangely unfazed, though. "Michael, you shouldn't be here," he said suddenly, his voice icy and disapproving. Emily swallowed hard, her instinct telling her to turn on Adam. "What do you know?" The question hung in the air, heavy and charged. There was a beat of silence, the kind that stretches painfully as if time itself has escalated into a climax. The stifling tension swirled around them like an unrelenting storm. "I couldn't let you just walk away," Adam finally said, eyes darting from Michael to Emily, his voice dropping to a chilling whisper. "Not without knowing the truth." "What truth?" she demanded, unease creeping in again. Suddenly, the beeping of the monitors surged, erratic and alarming. The door burst open once more, and the previously hushed medical team flew in, faces painted with dread. "Dr. Carter, we need to go now." The urgency in their voices echoed Emily's fears. As lights dimmed further and her heart raced faster, confusion flooded Emily's mind. What could possibly be happening that warranted such chaos? What secrets about her past were coming back to haunt her on the night of her baby's birth? In that moment, all she knew was that the walls were closing in, and whatever Adam held back was a truth that could shatter her world. The sirens began to wail outside, piercing the tension with a shattering realization. Time was running out, and answers loomed just out of reach. "Emily, just trust me," Adam said again, his grip tightening on her hand, "and whatever happens next, promise you'll stay close." The ground beneath her felt unsteady, and as new fear gripped her heart, the question lingered in the air: was she now facing the biggest battle of her life, not just for her baby, but for her very existence? Emily felt the icy grip of uncertainty tightening around her heart. The chaos roared on outside, blending with the sirens. Each sound was a reminder that danger lurked just moments away. She couldn't help but glance at Michael, his eyes wide with fear, then at Adam, whose expression was unsettlingly calm amidst the storm. "Emily, we don't have time for this. Please, just come with me," Michael pleaded, his voice rising above the din, edging closer to panic. The urgency of his words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. "How can I trust you when you've kept me in the dark?" she shot back, desperation creeping into her tone. "You both, what do you know that I don't?" Adam stepped forward, his posture tense. "If you don't leave now, Emily, we may not have another chance. They're coming." His voice was sharp, but there was a hint of desperation lurking within. Emily's gut twisted. Trust was a fragile thing, and in that moment, the tension's knife edge felt like her only companion. She looked into Adam's eyes, searching for truth, but all she found was a storm. Just then, the power flickered again. The overhead lights flickered, then plunged the room back into darkness, only to be replaced by the harsh sound of alarms. Michael grasped Emily's hand tightly, but she felt the electricity with Adam, his presence drawing her in. "I can't leave without knowing what's happening," she insisted, her voice steady despite the tremors running through her body. "What are you hiding from me, Adam?" With a flick of his wrist, Adam activated a small screen on the monitor. A feed of a security camera flickered to life, showing frantic figures running in the corridor outside. They wore white lab coats, but their faces were twisted with something that didn't resemble medical urgency, something darker. "They know you're here. They're after you," Adam said, his voice low and urgent. "People have been disappearing from this hospital, and I couldn't let you go until what?" The unspoken ending of his sentence loomed ominously in the air. "Until what?" Emily pressed, dread pooling in her stomach. "Until I found a way to protect you." There was a sadness in Adam's voice that twisted her heart. "You were never supposed to be part of this. I never wanted what? For me to be a pawn in whatever is happening? Or a prisoner? Why did you even bring me here?" Emily cried out, anger boiling in her blood. Suddenly, 3 figures burst through the door. The medical team was no longer the calm professionals she remembered. These were shadows of authority, faces stiff with resolve. "Get her out of here!" one of them barked, pointing a finger toward Emily. Now. Time stopped for a heartbeat. Adrenaline surged in Emily's veins as Michael stepped protectively in front of her. "You won't take her away!" he shouted defiantly, fists balled at his sides. Adam shook his head urgently. "You don't understand. They're not here to help. They know too much." The lights flickered again, and in that fleeting moment of light, Emily saw something in Adam's eyes, a flicker of emotion that she couldn't place. Was it fear? Regret? Then, as if the universe had conspired against her, the lights blinked out completely. Darkness engulfed the room, thick and heavy. Thorny whispers filled the air around them, taunting her, and panic surged again. "Michael, Adam, what do I do?" she gasped. "I want to let them take you, Emily." Michael's voice broke through the void, resolute and fierce. But she wasn't sure she could trust either man, or if this was the beginning of a fight for her life, or perhaps a test of her sanity. And in that same moment of silence, something shattered outside. A scream rang through the corridors, echoing like a death knell, the terrifying realization that whatever shadows loomed outside were darker than she had ever imagined. Suddenly, from the depths of obscurity, Adam's voice came again, fierce and unyielding. "Emily, we must choose now. Stay and risk everything, or run while there's still a chance." With every instinct screaming at her, she had to make a choice. As her world spun in chaos, the question beat loudly in her mind: would she follow Adam into the unknown, or trust the brother who had betrayed her before? The decision hung heavy in the air, and the terrifying truth was this: their next move could either be a life-saving escape or a descent into darkness they couldn't escape from. The clock was ticking, and the danger was closing in. What would she decide when a single choice could mean life or death? Emily's mind raced, heart pounding against her ribcage like a desperate animal. In that darkness, she felt the heat of Michael's body shielding her, a flicker of warmth among the ice-cold panic surrounding them. But Adam stood just beyond, a figure cloaked in uncertainty, his intention shrouded in mystery. "Emily." Michael's voice crackled through the suffocating blackness. "We need to go, now. Do you really think they'll protect you?" Adam shot back, his words sharp as a blade. "He doesn't know what they're capable of." Emily's breath quickened, every fiber of her being urging her to flee from the chaos. "What does that even mean, Adam?" she demanded, voice steadier than she felt. "You keep saying they're dangerous, but you're not telling me why." Before Adam could respond, the door splintered open and light burst into the room, blinding them momentarily. The figures from earlier surged in a mixture of authority and aggression, and she saw the glint of metal in their hands. The air thickened with fear. "Get her!" one of them barked, eyes locked on Emily like a hawk ready to pounce. "Step back!" Michael yelled, pushing Emily behind him, transforming into a wall of defiance against the encroaching threat. He wasn't going anywhere without her, but Emily could see Adam's eyes darting toward the door and back to her, filled with something panic or perhaps a hint of resolve. "You have to trust me," he shouted over the stir of voices. A sharp voice cut through the din, "We don't need her to see this." One of the intruders lunged for Emily, and time slowed, instinct kicked in. Emily had never considered herself the kind to fight, but as the chaos unfolded, she felt a surge of courage. "No!" she screamed, forcing her body forward, pushing past Michael and connecting with Adam, who was still rooted like a statue. "Adam," she screamed again, and something in her tone shifted the air. A flicker of determination crossed his face. He turned sharply toward her, his voice low but intense. "Follow me." With adrenaline propelling her, she grasped Michael's hand and surged forward just as the lights flickered again, plunging them into an unbearable darkness. But this time, they were moving stumbling ahead, leaping toward the unknown. The figures shouted behind them, panic and confusion spilling into the air. Each thud of their footsteps echoed in Emily's chest, the dread surging anew as she shot a glance back at the chaos behind them. Where was the safety? "Keep going," Michael urged, pulling her close, his grip strong. They darted down a narrow corridor filled with shadows and the frantic buzzing of electricity. This was just the beginning. They had to find a way out, a way to escape this nightmare that was spiraling deeper by the second. But the question remained, were they running toward safety, or only deeper into a web woven with lies and secrets? Then Emily's thoughts fractured as they rounded a corner. The corridor stretched ahead of them, dim yet eerily calm. Flashes of light flickered from the end, shadows dancing against the walls, promising both hope and danger. "We have to decide if we're willing to risk everything," Adam said, his voice grave. "If we don't reach that exit," he left the words hanging, heavy with implication. They were faces to the abyss now, daring to leap forward or fall back into darkness. Emily felt the knot in her stomach tighten as she considered their next move. She took a deep breath, glancing between Michael and Adam, trying to gauge the storm brewing beneath their surfaces. Suddenly, a muffled explosion reverberated from somewhere deep within the bowels of the facility. The ground shook underneath their feet, dust and debris raining down like ominous confetti. "Go!" Michael shouted, dragging Emily toward the end of the corridor. "Before it's too late." With her heart in her throat and uncertainty weighing heavily on her shoulders, Emily sprinted forward, not knowing that the next choice she made could either shatter everything she believed or illuminate the truth of the nightmare they were trapped in. And just as they reached the light at the end of the corridor, a chilling voice echoed behind them, sending frost shooting through Emily's veins. "You can't escape, Emily. You've already made your choice." What did they mean? Had the choice already been made for her? The blinding light enveloped them, illuminating the path ahead but casting ominous shadows behind. Emily squinted, heart pounding, trying to make sense of the figures still pursuing them, now mere silhouettes against the brightness. She could feel the weight of Adam's and Michael's presence, both urging her to keep moving. But doubt flickered in her chest. Had they truly chosen the right path? "Emily, stay close," Michael snapped, yanking her back as she hesitated. She could sense the urgency in his voice, a fire laced with fear. Adam's sharp breaths filled the space between them, tension thickening the air as they pressed towards the unknown. They barreled down the corridor, adrenaline fueling their escape. Rounding another corner, Emily caught a glimpse of the exterior door ahead, heavy, barred, and marked with signs of neglect. Just as relief washed over her, the floor shook violently beneath them. A roar echoed, making the walls tremble. "What is happening?" Emily screamed, glancing back as the harsh reality closed in. "Just keep running." Adam shouted over the explosive sound, his voice barely audible. He shot a glance at Michael, the shared fear igniting something deeper. We need to push through. The scene morphed into a chaotic blur, shadows loomed, edges blurred, and the weight of danger crept closer. Emily felt like a marionette, with her newfound courage threading through invisible strings, guiding her but also binding her to unknown consequences. She grappled with conflicting emotions, her mind racing, thoughts of escape, of what lay beyond those doors, and the echoes of betrayal still fresh in her mind. What do you know that I don't? She called desperately to Adam, who pressed forward. His answer hung in the air, tantalizing yet frustrating. Her fingers slipped as she worked to keep up. Please. What's at stake? This isn't just about you. Adam shot back, determination darkening his features. Everything is at stake. Another explosion rocked the corridor, splintering the overhead lights into fragments of glass raining down like tiny stars. Emily ducked instinctively, the cold terror seeping into her bones. A shout fractured the chaos as another dark figure lunged at her from the haze. A guard, or something more menacing? Get down! Michael shouted, pulling her close and shielding her with his body. The impact of something colliding with the wall sent shockwaves through the floor, rattling her bones. Emily felt her world collapsing into fragments around her. From under the protective shelter of Michael's embrace, she saw flashes of movement. Two guards, armed, surging toward them with malicious intent. The unmistakable glint of a weapon sliced through the growing chaos, and she gasped, just as Michael pushed her behind him, stepping into the fray. No! Emily cried as he faced a looming threat alone. But Adam reached for her arm, his grip fierce. We can't lose him. We don't have time. In that moment, Emily felt the intensity of decision bearing down on her. She could push through, leave Michael behind, or risk everything in the hope of saving him. Go! Michael yelled, his voice strained yet firm, his eyes locking on hers. You have to trust him, Emily. Go! Time splintered. Almost instinctively, she pulled away from Adam, weaving around the chaos, trying to reach Michael. But the darkness seemed to close in. Whispers echoed in her head as she echoed his name, feeling drenched in indecision. Emily! Adam's voice screamed in her ear as he grasped her tightly. This isn't the end. We can't turn back. Just before silence hit, Michael glanced back at them. His expression was fierce, a mixture of rage and resignation. You have to choose now. Suddenly, the world around them exploded in blinding brilliance, drawing Emily forward. She struggled to hold on to her resolve as destiny bent to the storm brewing behind her. Was she truly ready to abandon everything she held dear, or was she stepping into something much darker? The moment crystallized, and as they raced toward the dim light of the exit, her mind echoed one lingering thought: what awaited them outside could either shatter their world or reveal the horrors trapped within it. Emily! Adam called desperately, but her gaze was glued to the shadows chasing them. There was an uncertainty following them, something unrelenting and insatiable that prowled right behind. What would it take to escape the horrors of the truth? Would the secrets she uncovered shatter the fragile bonds they shared, or would they bring them closer together? As they collided into the light, Emily's heart pounded painfully, filling the air with a suffocating intensity. She could feel the weight of it all pressing in, but she wasn't ready for what lay beyond that door. As it swung open, their fate unspooled, and the air crackled with both hope and dread. And then silence. Emily, a voice whispered from the shadows behind her, sending a chill coursing down her spine. Who was it? What had she missed? The moment the door swung open, Emily was met with a sudden rush of cool air, fresh, yet electric with tension. The space beyond was obscured, dim with uneven lighting that flickered ominously, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The silence was deafening, making her heart thrum louder in her chest. Adam hesitated, glancing back at the chaos behind them. Emily, we have to go. He urged, anxiety lace threading through his voice. But she was frozen. The voice that had pierced the silence called to her a soft, haunting whisper that fanned the embers of dread and curiosity deep within her. It rang familiar yet distant, as if it had woven itself into the fabric of her all-consuming fear. "Stay close." Adam tugged at her, pulling her from the threshold like a lifeline. With a deep breath, she stepped into the unknown, her feet trailing hesitantly after him. The new space loomed like a forgotten relic, dusty and untouched. Fleeting glances caught fragments of the environment: a broken desk, a cracked window, flickering fluorescent tubes that buzzed with annoyance. Anxiety gripped her throat like a vice. Then Emily heard it again. "Emily, who is it?" she whispered, involuntarily turning as if the shadows might answer her. Adam's hand tightened around hers, dragging her deeper into the room. "Forget it," he snapped, pulling her onward. "We need to move before they catch up." But a knot twisted painfully in Emily's stomach. What if that voice belonged to someone who could help them? To someone she knew? "We can't leave," she insisted, shaking her head as the specter of uncertainty loomed larger. A sudden flurry of startled voices erupted behind them. The unmistakable clatter of boots on the tiled floor echoed through the corridor. Panic seized Emily, propelling her to push against Adam's grip. "We have to see." With no time left to argue, she bolted toward the whispers, drawing closer as they morphed into frantic murmurs. "Help me please, Emily." The shadows coalesced into a figure standing just beyond the dim illumination, their features obscured, creating a chilling contrast against the derelict surroundings. Her breath caught as recognition flooded over her. The figure stepped forward, revealing familiar features twisted with pain and desperation. "James?" Her voice trembled, icy realization seeping in as her heart sank. "What are you doing here?" "You shouldn't be. I had to find you, Emily." "You don't understand, they're coming for you." James's eyes were wide with urgency, his hands trembling. Every instinct screamed that he was trouble. Yet a part of her longed for comfort, for the connection they had once shared. "Who?" Adam growled, positioning himself protectively at her side, like a storm ready to break. James took a step closer, pleading. "They've seen you. You're in more danger than you know. You must trust me." Her mind raced. Recollections of their past clashed with the present. The man she once loved, twisted by time and circumstance, now threatened by shadows and lies. No. It can't be true. But as she searched his face, doubt crept in like fog, suffocating the clarity she desperately sought. Suddenly, the echoes of hurried footsteps morphed into cacophony, drawing closer. "Go!" Adam shouted, eyes darting towards the door. "Don't listen to him. We're not safe here." "Wait." Emily turned back toward James, desperate for answers, but the moment hung heavy in the air. Life and death decisions waited for her. How could she forge ahead, abandoning everything she ever knew? Footfalls thundered, the shadows grew darker, and Emily's heart faltered. She wanted to trust James, to believe the new threat wasn't insurmountable. Yet a deep-seated mistrust of the past tugged at her. "Emily!" Adam's voice rang out, laced with panic. "We need to move, now." The confrontation loomed, and in that instant, everything hinged on her next breath. "What's the truth?" she demanded, eyes flicking between James's pleading gaze and Adam's steely determination. Suddenly, the powerful roar of gunfire shattered the silence like glass, sending Emily stumbling backward. "Get down!" Adam shouted, shoving her behind the cracked desk. Heart pounding, vision blurring, she realized they were no longer just running from shadows, they were running from something that wanted to consume them all. Emily James's voice was a whisper lost in the chaos, as the darkness encroached once more. Would she even survive long enough to uncover the truth? And as she crouched, her heart hammered with fear, a thought cut through the swirling confusion. What would happen if she chose wrong? Outside, the storm raged. Could they find refuge within, or would they just walk into the eye of the unraveling storm? The air crackled around them, thick with the scent of dust and something more sinister. Emily crouched behind the desk, a cold sweat breaking out at her temples. Noise roared in her ears, drowning out everything but the relentless beating of her heart. Gunfire echoed like thunderclaps, ricocheting off walls, forcing her reality into sharp focus. "Get up. We have to move." Adam grabbed her arm, his grip fierce and unwavering. She could see the strain in his face, the desperation etched into his features as another shot rang out. It was a warning, a call to action. Emily glanced back at James, who still stood in the shadows, a mere shape defined by fear. The voice that had called her, that had stirred old memories, now felt like a ghostly echo, fading beneath the barrage of chaos. And what if it was a trap? Could she trust him again? But before she could fully process the weight of the decision, Adam yanked her to her feet, urgency flaring in his eyes as his thumb brushed her forearm. With one last look at James, she felt a pang of regret gnawing at her confidence. She turned away, unwilling to let her past drag her under. They sprinted toward an exit an arm's length away, the corridor ahead a dimly lit tunnel filled with doubt and uncertainty. Each step echoed, matching the rhythm of her thundering heart. "Are you okay?" Adam panted, glancing back over his shoulder. The flickering lights above seemed to pulse, casting frustrating shadows that made her feel dizzy and disoriented. "We can't stop." "I'm all right," she stammered, trying to match his pace. But fear and doubt tangled with adrenaline, paralyzing her thoughts. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath them, an explosion somewhere deep in the building sending debris tumbling from the ceiling. Emily yelped, instinctively diving to the ground. Adam barely caught himself from falling, his arm wrapping around her as they tumbled together. "Stay down," he urged. They hit the floor together, barely avoiding shards of plaster raining down like bullets. Emily felt the cold tile beneath her, cool against her heated skin, grounding her in reality. She barely had time to reorient herself before Adam pulled her to a crouch, urging her to follow him forward. "James. We can't leave him." She called out, but the words barely escaped her lips. She caught a glimpse of him, still standing, arms raised as if enacting a desperate maneuver against the unseen threat. "Don't think about him. He'll find his way." Adam hissed, pulling her forward again as the walls creaked with tension, threatening to collapse upon themselves. But she hesitated only for a heartbeat. If James was in danger, if he truly was here trying to protect her, what if she was making a grave mistake? "Emily." The urgency in Adam's tone snapped her back to focus. "We have to go. Now." With every ounce of resolve, she shot one last glance toward James, who seemed to be battling shadows of his own. Tears pricked at her eyes, but she couldn't dwell. She turned and ran, the heavy pounding of her heart mingling with the steps of the unknown that chased them. They burst through a door at the end of the corridor, rushing into a dimly lit storage room. Gravity seemed to shift as they entered, an eerie quiet enveloping them like a thick fog. "Lock it," Adam commanded, scanning the room for anything that could serve as a barricade. Emily obeyed instinctively, pushing the door shut just as heavy footsteps trampled the hallway. She could feel their weight bearing down like a storm, a tidal wave of fear and urgency. "What if they find us?" The question trembled on her lips, as thoughts spiraled back to the voice, to the power of the connection she shared with James. "They won't," Adam shot back, his tone steely. "If we stay hidden, they won't know we're here." But nothing felt certain in that moment. The seconds ticked by, each one stretching into eternity as they stood together in the impending darkness. Emily searched Adam's eyes, desperation threatening to seep in again. "Can we trust him?" she whispered, horrified by the vulnerability in her question. Adam's gaze hardened. "It doesn't matter. What matters is getting out of here." A distant bang reverberated through the walls, and without warning, the lights flickered, casting shadows that danced wildly around them. It was a brief distraction, but enough to make her heart race. "Whatever's happening out there, it's only just begun," Emily murmured, dread pooling in her gut as the storm continued to rage on, swirling around them, and as they clung to each other, she felt haunted by unspoken truths. What other secrets lay hidden in the dark? And what would she do when faced with the choice of trust or betrayal? Where would it all lead them in the end? Emily's breath came in shallow gasps, every moment stretching unnaturally long as they huddled in the dark. Shadows danced menacingly around them, manipulating her imagination, blending terror with the unknown. What if the footsteps outside were agents of chaos, determined to unravel everything? The waiting felt suffocating, like the weight of 1,000 unspoken fears pressing down on her chest. "Stay quiet," Adam whispered, his voice low and firm. He moved closer, instinctively wrapping an arm around her shoulders as if that alone could protect them from whatever horrors lurked outside. The warmth of his body was a strange comfort amidst the chilling uncertainty. An unsettling silence settled over the storage room, punctuated by the occasional thump of their own hearts. Emily found it hard to concentrate. Her mind spiraled through memories of James, the familiarity of his voice, the pull of those times they had shared. She struggled to decouple the past from the present. Was James out there fighting for his own survival or something more sinister? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the hallway, fracturing the silence like breaking glass. Emily jumped, her heart racing dangerously, pounding against her ribcage. She clutched Adam's arm tighter, every muscle in her body rigid with fear. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yeah," he replied, his eyes stern as he scanned their surroundings. "We might not be safe for long." Before she could respond, the door rattled violently. Emily's stomach dropped. Panic seized her as she looked at Adam, wide-eyed. He was already moving, his expression steely and resolved. "Get ready," he murmured, bracing himself against the door. The rattling intensified, and Emily's mind raced. What if it's James? Her voice cracked. She wanted to believe in him, but doubt gnawed at her core. They had abandoned him. What if they would now pay the price? "I can't take that chance," Adam insisted, determination cutting through his words. "Listen, we need to find another way out of here." Before she could protest, Adam began to inch toward a small window near the back of the room. It was covered in grime but large enough to squeeze through if they could manage it. "I'll go first, then I can help you," he said. His tone was resolute, yet she caught a flicker of vulnerability hidden beneath. As he climbed and pushed against the window, acute fear gripped Emily. What if they got separated? What if the chaos outside consumed them both? She felt torn, a battle within raging fiercely, to trust Adam to take the lead or to fear losing him completely. Just as the noises from the hallway became frantic, shouts peppering the air, the window broke open with a loud crack. Adam squeezed through, gasping for air as he landed on the other side. He turned back, his face taut with urgency. "Emily! Come on! Hurry!" Adrenaline coursed through her body as she scrambled toward the window, but her heartbeat thundered in her ears, blocking out all rational thought. Each second counted. Whatever was outside wouldn't wait. Just as she grasped the edge of the window frame, a figure burst into the room cloaked in shadows, a familiar silhouette that made her blood run cold. "Emily!" It was James. Electricity surged through her. The weight of care and conflict flooded her senses as the struggle for trust overwhelmed her completely. She had turned her back on him, but now, standing there amidst the chaos, he was all that remained of her past and possibly her hope. "What are you doing here?" Adam growled, positioned protectively in front of Emily. "Get away from her!" James yelled, eyes darting between them, his body tense and poised like a coiled spring. Emily felt paralyzed, torn in two as the magnitude of what was happening crashed down on her like a wave. Two men, both claiming to want her safe, and as the tension hung in the air, thick and dangerous, Emily was faced with her most daunting choice yet: would she leap into the unknown arms of the past, or trust the urgent presence of the man beside her fighting against overwhelming odds? The storm outside surged with a newfound violence as uncertainty spun out of control, and she knew that whatever choice she made would define them all. What would it be? Emily felt her pulse quicken, the air around her charged with tension. The warehouse walls, thick and unyielding, seemed to close in as the two men stood poised for confrontation. She could barely breathe, each inhale feeling like a betrayal. "James, just listen," she pleaded, her voice shaking. She took a step toward him, longing to bridge the emotional chasm that had widened between them. "We need to get out of here together." "Together? Is that really what you want?" Adam scoffed, maintaining his protective stance. "You don't know what he is capable of anymore, Emily." "Enough." Emily's voice cut through the room, a crack of clarity amidst the chaos. "Enough of the shouting. We can't waste time like this." The urgency of her words hung in the air, a fragile truce. Every second spent in uncertainty felt like an eternity weighed down by regrets and decisions left unmade. Outside, the storm reached a fever pitch, its howling winds crashing against the structure, almost echoing her internal turmoil. A flash of lightning illuminated the deep lines of worry on both men's faces, revealing the fear that simmered beneath their bravado. "James, please," she said softly, her eyes searching his. "If you're truly here to help, then show me. We can't fight each other when there's something greater out there." "Greater?" Adam snapped, his frustration palpable. "You're kidding yourself if you think he's just going to help." James's jaw clenched, and Emily noted the sweat beading on his forehead. "He's right about one thing," James said, his voice calm but barely restrained. "There are things out there, things we didn't plan for. I can explain everything, but we need to move now." The door rattled again, more violently this time, the sound sent fresh waves of panic through her. She felt the clock ticking in her chest. If James was telling the truth, they could already be too late. Without thought, she took another step towards James, adrenaline igniting decisions before she could fully process them. "If you're both going to protect me, then do it together. Help me get out of this alive." Adam's expression softened for a fleeting moment. She saw the glimmer of hope nestled behind his fierce loyalty. "Fine," he relented cautiously, still watching James like a hawk. "But you better know what you're talking about." "Then we don't have time to lose," James said, moving toward the door. "Stay close. I promise you won't regret this." With that, James led, and a heavy air of reluctance followed. Emily felt a surge of apprehension. This moment was a gamble. Trusting James meant opening herself to a world of questions. Yet, she sensed that Adam would have her back, even if his eyes betrayed unease. As they edged their way toward the door, the rattling returned, fierce and threatening, a wild force beckoning them to the unknown. Emily's breath came rapidly. She was on the brink of a choice that could undo everything. "Which way?" Adam demanded, scanning for any sign of danger. "Through the back storage corridor," James said, urgency flooding his voice. "It's a risk, but it's our best shot." Emily hesitated, the memories of betrayal swirling in her mind. She trusted no one but herself right now. Before she could voice her thoughts, the door burst open, and an oppressive wave of shadow rushed in, engulfing the three of them. Emily's heart dropped as dark figures emerged, their faces shadowed but menacing. The reality of their peril became brutally clear, and fear clawed up her throat. "Run!" Adam shouted, pushing Emily forward while James tackled the nearest shadow. With panic coursing through her, she sprinted down the hallway into the chaos, her mind racing with uncertainty. Among the chaos, she couldn't shake off the feeling that her choice to trust one man over another could lead to devastating consequences. And just ahead, a deep trepidation grew within her. If they managed to escape, would life as she knew it ever return? But another voice in her head whispered louder, did she even want it to? One thing was clear, she was no longer alone in this fight, but each heartbeat echoed the question what lay ahead in the storm. And in the darkness, could she salvage any semblance of her reality? They veered around a corner, desperate. But another ominous sound loomed, low and foreboding, hissing, like a serpent preparing to strike. What new terror awaited them in that narrow corridor? The air crackled with unease, shadows swirling around them as they raced deeper into the belly of the hospital. Emily's heartbeat echoed her urgent thoughts filled with fear and confusion. Adam's figure pressed closely beside her as they maneuvered through the musty space, while James provided the way forward, his pace brisk and focused. Faster! Adam barked, his voice slicing through the tension like a blade. The hallway stretched endlessly before them, darkened corners holding memories of dread, and each sound seemed amplified, each thud of their footsteps merging into a cacophony of chaos. Then, abruptly, the lights flickered, illuminating a scene of pandemonium. Figures darted into view, clad in white coats but their faces masked by shadows. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Who were these people? What were they aiming for? Keep moving! James shouted, urgency rolling off him like thunder. Emily could feel the electric pull of danger close behind, a horde desperate to reclaim what they believed was theirs. They diverted into a narrow storage room, the door slamming shut behind them, an impromptu barricade between them and the chaos. The room was dim, filled with the odor of stale air and something metallic. Emily glanced around, desperation painting her vision. A single flickering bulb fought valiantly against the darkness. She turned to Adam, who was catching his breath. "Are you okay?" she asked, though worry gnawed at her gut. This was spiraling out of control. "I'm fine," he replied, steel in his stance. But she noticed the tension in his jaw, the way his brow furrowed with impending uncertainty. James paced the small room, anxiety tensing his frame. He was suddenly not the comforting figure she had wanted him to be. "We can't stay here, we have to find a way out." "I know a back exit," he recounted, breathless yet determined. Emily locked her gaze on him. She had come so far, placed her trust in both men. Could she really risk it by going with James? Every instinct whispered caution, her past intertwining with the present in a wild dance. "Emily, we don't have time to debate," Adam inserted, the alarm in his voice slicing through the haze of doubt. Beneath the urgency, an unexpected sense of togetherness settled in. "Okay, let us go," she acquiesced, swallowing the flutter of fear in her heart. "Lead the way, James." They burst back into the corridor, the footsteps echoing against the hard floor like drums heralding their progress. But then, the world erupted around them, behind them, that infernal door burst open as figures stormed in, wild dogs unleashed. "There they are!" One of them barked, their eyes glinting with malevolence. "Run!" Adam shouted, adrenaline pumping through his veins. Without hesitating, they sprinted down a dim hallway, the clatter of danger hot on their heels. They veered sharply left, diving into an even more confined path, an emergency exit marked by rust and neglect. Emily's heart raced, knowing they couldn't afford to falter, they had to hold on to whatever hope was left. "Do you hear that?" James asked, his face paling. As if on cue, a distant rumbling echoed through the walls. "More of them!" Adam gasped, urgency lacing his tone. "This way!" In a blur of panic and quick decisions, they pressed on, adrenaline urging them further. As they reached the threshold of a heavy door, hope surged, it led outside their escape. It groaned under the pressure of Adam's push. Emily's breath hitched. Freedom was just a heartbeat away. "Go!" James urged, his tone frantic. But as they stepped outside, relief morphed into another layer of danger. The night air hit her like a frigid wave, the world stretched out before them, wild and chaotic. Yet safety remained elusive. "Where now?" Emily begged. Darkness surrounded them, the shadows concealing threats beyond her comprehension. "We need to get to my car," James shouted, scanning the area. "I parked near the back." We can't stay exposed here. They darted across the pavement, images blurring in an adrenaline-fueled haze. Emily could hear voices rising behind them, the familiar sound of pursuit drawing nearer, proving she was still entangled in chaos. Then, a stuttered crack of gunfire rang. She froze in terror, instinctively gripping Adam's arm. "Move, move!" Adam yelled, urging them with fierce insistence. They pressed forward, fear driving them, hearts pounding in sync with the chaos. She caught sight of a car, James's sleek vehicle, a beacon of hope against the oppressive night. "Over there!" she exclaimed, lunging toward it. Just as they reached the car, another shot fired, narrowly missing them. "Get in!" James shouted, desperation coloring his feature. They scrambled inside, adrenaline hurling them across the seat. "Drive!" Emily screamed, and relief washed over her as James turned the key in the ignition, but before they could breathe again, the night erupted like a storm. Figures swarmed around them, shadows threatening to pull them back into the darkness. "Get us out of here!" Adam yelled, fear engulfing him. With a roar of the engine, they tore through the night. Emily's heart raced, the weight of uncertainty hanging over her head. Were they truly escaping or running deeper into danger? The atmosphere was thick with unasked questions as they sped away, leaving the chaos behind. Glancing out the back window, Emily felt a lump in her throat. The hospital faded into the distance, shadows receding but never fully disappearing. "Where do we go now?" she gasped, catching her breath, uncertainty filling the void left by crisis. "We need to regroup," James replied, determination lining his voice. "There are still things you don't know, truths that will change everything." "No more secrets," Emily demanded, her voice breaking through the tension, the weight of their shared experiences binding them. As they drove into the burgeoning dawn, one thing settled deep inside her: this was a beginning, not just an end. She had faced her fears, pressed through layers of turmoil to get here. Together, they would uncover the truth. Whatever lay ahead, she would face it head-on. "Whatever happens next," she breathed, her gaze darting between the two men, each carrying their own shadows, "we fight together." And with those words, she felt the spark of unity ignite among them, a fragile yet fierce hope weaving their paths towards the uncertain but necessary journey ahead. Now, it was time to uncover the truth behind the darkness, the shadows of their choices looming larger than ever. But she wouldn't run again. Not from the truth. Not from the bond severed and now formed anew. The road stretched ahead, and she knew she was ready for whatever it brought. Now that you've shared this journey, it's time for action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, it really helps me out. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything.